It reminds me of a quote from Ben Franklin. "We'll know the worth of water when the wells run dry."
You can see there is nothing living in this water at all. It's really just not compatible with life.
We've been told that kids, colored streams orange when they were asked to draw a stream in school because that's the color of the stream they saw. It was orange with the iron that came from the abandoned coal mine pollution. We decided we're going to try to solve the problem, which was highly acidic streams laden with heavy metals like aluminum and iron that were impairing life. In '94, when we first began this project, the average pH in the main stem of Monday Creek was 4.5. The pH of vinegar is somewhere around 4. We generally say that about 50% of the watershed is impaired or impacted from acid mine drainage. There were some agency folks locally that said it was dead as a bag of hammers. That's kind of a quote that we often use still to reference, back in the beginning.
So Raccoon Creek is a large watershed that's just west of Athens. It flows through 6 counties in southern Ohio, 190 stream miles that were impacted from acid mine drainage.
This is an unreclaimed surface mine site in the west branch of Raccoon Creek. Sites like this, typically a lot of shale, leftover coal. This was the coal that was too dirty or of too low quality to be taken. These sites produce a lot of acid mine drainage. The water that's sitting in these pits doesn't have anywhere to go. So as it rains, water flows down through the shale, flows through the coal, creates acid mine drainage, and then as it sits in the pit, it's also generating more acid mine drainage. So these pits work like a coffee maker. The water is percolating down through this acidic spoil and coming out somewhere as very acidic water.
We're here at the Pine Run Back Gate. We're in the upper reaches of the west branch of Sunday Creek's watershed. This would have been a spot where people would have actually gotten into this particular mine. And now, since it's been abandoned, it has a consistent amount of water that flows out. This mine drainage has a pH somewhere between 3.5 and 4, depending on the day. And it usually flows consistently all year round. It looks like the water is only just a couple inches deep, but this is actually a false bottom. So what looks like solid is actually iron precipitate. So it's not solid at all. It's not the bottom of the stream. And it's not mud either. When you did room and pillar mining underground, you would pull out as much coal as you could and just leave pillars. Well, that leaves a lot of void space where when mines are abandoned, water makes its way in there, oxygen is in there, and the 3 things that you need to create acid mine drainage are oxygen, water, and then the pyrite mineral, which is found in our coal seams in southeast Ohio. So the problems that we have with acid mine drainage, there's a kind of twofold of why we even care about it. Why is this a problem? Most aquatic life really wants to live in water that has a pH somewhere between 6 and 8. So, pH scale goes from 0 to 14. Pure water would be a 7. But when you have water that's 3.5 or 4, you can see there is nothing living in this water at all. It's really just not compatible with life. Even if the pH was better here, all of this iron is completely covered up any stream habitat that was on the bottom.
So now, coming out of the coal mine, you have high acidic water with toxic stuff in it, and the habitat's getting impaired, and the trifecta of no biology occurs. And so that's kind of the state we were in 25 years ago when we began.
And it started off with small mines, underground mines that fed the iron furnaces in this region, which was a big part of the Civil War. And that's kind of where it got its start. And then as that ended and a lot more people came to the state, realized there was a lot of coal resources in Ohio, a lot of shallow coal resources, which was easier to extract. There was a pretty big boom in coal mining in the late 1800s.
Some of the mines started closing in the area. The underground mines in kind of the 20s. Some of the surface mines lasted longer. Surface mining kind of rose after World War II.
There is still some going today, but the bulk of it has already been done.
In many cases, there was hardly any reclamation. It was state-driven.
So prior to regulation, companies could come in here, they could essentially extract coal at their own leisure and leave equipment in the ground.
Leave their coal waste on that particular site and just keep moving to the next site and not have to do anything.
This looks like a moonscape. Nothing can grow on it. Rain hits it, it turns into acid mine drainage.
Around the early 50s, 60s, 70s, there started to be some rules passed where they at least required some tree planting or, very minimal stuff.
So folks weren't necessarily doing something wrong. They were doing what regulations required, which there were none. So there was no requirements.
This, coal mining was fueling the development essentially of the economy that we now benefit from.
So at least 100 years of mining without any real significant reclamation laws.
Would it be better if there were regulations that were done more cleanly? Absolutely. Would it be better if the companies that were the people who profited the most off of that coal mining, would it be better if they were the ones investing in cleanup? Absolutely. Of course, legacy waste is disappointing, and legacy waste shouldn't be there, but we didn't have major environmental regulations until the 70s, and we grew so much before the 70s.
And so no regulations, nowhere to point the finger and say, hey, this pollution, you caused it, you need to repair it. And so it's kind of fallen onto, citizens, state agencies, other folks involved to actually solve the problem. And so here we sit.
So this treatment system is an active system, so you can see and hear that the water is being brought in by a piping system that comes from a mine discharge just up the road. It goes into a pond, and then that pond water then feeds the doser. Simple technology really, but it's just a two-sided bucket. When one side fills up, gets heavy, it tips. Every time that bucket tips, it hits a bar that's up in the doser, and that allows material to come out. We call it an active system because we are actively adding something to the stream, and we are having to put an input in. Our goal with treatment is really to encourage chemical reactions to happen where we want them to happen. So here in Pine Run, we are not trying to restore this creek. This is Pine Run. It will always look like this. It has always looked bad. It has never been a healthy creek because it has so much acid mine drainage that's coming into it. What we are trying to do with this treatment system here is to treat downstream. So we're not trying to restore this particular stream. And while some people may call that a sacrifice zone, I don't really like that terminology because you really can't sacrifice something that's already dead. And Pine Run has pretty much been dead since mining occurred in this valley.
This site is on the Wayne National Forest, and it was historically surface mined for coal. It's now the location of a passive acid mine drainage treatment system. This is a steel slag leach bed. This site uses a byproduct of the steel industry to help treat acid mine drainage. This project starts up at the top with a source water pond where a tributary has been dammed up to hold water. That water drains down into a sand filter to filter out large particles in the water. From the sand filter, the water enters the steel slag bed and flows vertically down through the steel slag. As it flows vertically through the slag, it picks up alkalinity that is stored inside the crushed steel slag. And that water is then piped out of the slag bed into the east branch of Raccoon Creek with a pH of around 12. That high pH water mixes with the low pH acid mine drainage to help neutralize the water in East Branch. Coal mining in Appalachia is on the decline, which is a good thing. We've started utilizing more alternative energy sources, less coal.
A lot of the work to restore and remediate pre-regulation coal mining, funds for that, a good portion of it does come from a severance tax on existing coal mining.
As coal mining declines, it affects how much money, states like Ohio or anybody implementing abandoned mine land programs gets.
Less money towards remediation does mean less remediation is occurring.
Right now we're at a very low point in funding to do acid mine drainage projects.
The severance tax that we're working under right now, that expires.
If that tax is not renewed in 2021 by Congress, then the balance of that fund will be spent down over the next 5 or 6 years, and then there won't be funding to do this work.
The treatment of acid mine drainage will eventually cease.
In our state, I know for certain that the inventory of issues is actually growing.
So we have documented over $400 million worth of still existing problems. We've done over $100 million worth of projects, so that means we still have a lot.
We need to have the funding available so that we can keep up all of the recovery, all of the life that we've brought back to streams like Sunday Creek and Raccoon Creek, Monday Creek.
The significance of biodiversity is real. And here we are in an area that's one of the most biodiverse places in the United States, if not in the world. The water is such a piece of that cycle.
Cleaning up those streams isn't just about maybe getting a few miles of stream back that have fish in it and that looks nice.
If you think, hey, this company or this business has an opportunity to move in here, but the stream next to their office is pH 3 and orange, just not as appealing as they're moving in somewhere where the stream is live with fish and people are just taking care of it.
People want to live in places that are clean, and people want to raise families and respect the place that they live.
And so we've seen incredible success, going from pH 4.5 to pH 7, going from 4 species of fish to 37 today.
That's a huge stride.
We are blessed with abundant water in this region. Just because we're blessed with abundance doesn't mean that we should pollute it and waste it. This isn't our water to destroy. This is the world's water. It's our duty to make sure that it stays clean for generations to come.